Are the Smiths slop or not? What? We're going to figure out first, what is slop? Second, how to detect it. Third, how much of the catalog is slop or not. Fourth, if they're talented otherwise. And then finally, we're going to figure out if you and other people are going to think they're slop or not. Now, without further ado, what is slop? Let's get right to it. Here's the music matrix. We have energy from 0 to 11. This can be energy or intensity. You can think about it either way. And on the bottom, we have from 0 to 10, we have catchiness, or you could say how iconic or memorable a song is. And any song that is less than a 7 catchiness gets called slop. Unless maybe you're a fan of that genre, then you might say, well, actually it's this, but everyone else is going to call it slop. So it's the slop zone here. And then if it's higher energy and intensity and it's really catchy, it gets called rock. If it's lower energy or intensity and it's really catchy, it gets called pop. You can see that. You got eyes. You got moving eyes. And so rock, pop, slop. Now, energy and intensity, that's really easy to figure out where a song goes, right? Because 0 to 3 is music that people fall asleep to, yada, yada, yada. 3 to 7 is music that people are dancing to. 7 to 11 is people fighting, moshing, running, sprinting. You know, maybe they're jogging to music that's here, but they're like sprinting for their freaking lives right here, running away from a tiger. That kind of thing. Now, catchiness, this is a little bit harder to figure out. When is something less than a 7 in terms of catchiness? We know what slop is. It's less than a 7 in terms of catchiness, but how do we detect it? Well, boy, are you lucky, because I figured it out. Now, let's take a look at the catchiness index. A lot of things go into catchiness, which is why it might seem more intimidating, but actually, we have one variable which can give us a best bang for our buck, best bang for our buck, which is predictability. Predictability can give us a good starting place that really gets us as far as actually we need to get for our purposes today. Predictability, if something's entirely incoherent, like a Mars Volta song, it goes nowhere, it's just complete, like, what is happening, and it's not catchy or anything, then it's slop. It's guaranteed to be slop. Here's catchiness, here's predictability. It's guaranteed to be slop if it's completely incoherent. If it's completely corny, completely predictable, boring, then it's also going to be complete slop. But if there's a couple elements that are kind of more predictable, a couple elements that are really unique, and they come together in just the right way, they end up in the money zone, they can be a hit. But they could also still be slop, because if you take something incoherent and awful and something corny and awful and you combine it and it gets on average, this song is an average in the money zone of predictability, it could still be slop. It could still end up here in this region, right? Or it could be something that's really great for fans of that artist or that genre, but not really for everyone. So that's kind of how this works. You need to kind of usually be in this money zone. So we know what slop is, and we know how to detect it. If something's completely incoherent or completely corny, we know instantly going to be slop, right? And so it needs to be somewhere in the middle, and it needs to be balanced well. And from there, it's pretty easy to tell when it's complete slop, when it's otherwise, right? So that's actually not the tricky part. Now, here's where we get to where artists can get complicated when people are going to call it slop or not, right? If someone, this is catalog audit, right? So this is the relative quality, right, and the relative ratio across the entire catalog of those different quality levels, right? Something like here is an OnlyFans model. OnlyFans. Ooh, burp, energy drink. I need to get another energy drink. OnlyFans model. This is where mostly it's music that's going to be great for fans. There's a ton of stuff that if you're a fan of the artist or the genre, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of the catalog. But there's not a lot of hits that anyone who's not a fan already of that style or genre, they've probably never heard of the artist or probably don't have any strong opinions because they haven't heard any hits because there aren't any really. And there's also probably not really any slop either. It's just mostly stuff fans are going to like. So think Slayer, Motorhead, Frank Zappa. Over here, you've got Hit or Quits. This is very like Weezer and Queen, where there's stuff that everyone's going to love. It's really good, really catchy, or it's just like, even if it's not like everyone knows it, it's so good that it could be like a relative like hit or like the second, third best song of the album. Really good stuff, almost the entire album, or completely unlistenable garbage. Pretty much no in between. So these ones can be tricky because, you know, people who aren't a fan of that genre, they're just going to see this and be like, well, look, there's barely any hits. They're not good, right? But if you're a fan of the genre, you're going to say, look, this is all good. They're really good, right? So that's why this can become tricky with what people say. It's going to depend on who's saying it, right? Versus something like this is a classic catalog where it's stuff that everyone's going to love, and then let's say they've got 12 albums, maybe like the Beatles has like a lot of albums like that, or Metallica, right? They've got like probably like 8 or 10 albums worth of just incredibly really good songs, and then maybe only like 6 albums worth of stuff that's just for fans. But still, it's like, man, people are pretty much going to agree that they're good, right? Whenever you have a lot of hits or a lot of slop, this whole thing kind of gets interesting. But here's a good example where it's like, sometimes you can have, like, let's say you have 3 albums of hits, 3 albums of stuff that's really good for the fans, and 3 albums that no one wants to listen to. Then you're kind of like a 50-50. So think Led Zeppelin, think Nine Inch Nails. Here's like David Bowie and Limp Bizkit. This is why those are kind of controversial. You might say, well, everyone loves David Bowie. It's like, talk to more people. People who aren't like super into music and chronically online, they have never heard anything from David Bowie except for like 2 or 3 hits, and usually they're so far off in energy that they might like one and not like the other. And then things get interesting because David Bowie, I went through his entire catalog. He has like 800 million songs, and most of it's unlistenable garbage. But then he's got 20 or 30 songs that are incredible, but just the relative ratio makes it hard. That if you average the quality of every song, you'd say primarily what David Bowie does is make garbage. But he also makes hits. It's like a broken clock is right twice a day. So would you then say, oh, that clock's amazing, it's the best clock ever, because when it did work, it was super useful? You're like, you only looked at it when it was, so, but is music a clock? It's not. I don't know. So this is the whole thing where this is going to be debatable. The Smiths, though, I think they end up here. The Smiths does not have that big of a catalog, and likewise, like I think a good example, like Rage Against the Machine or Higher Energy example, but I mean, they just released incredible album, lots of good stuff, and then they left. You know what I mean? Or they broke up, or it's just kind of like, that's where you end up with an iconic catalog. And they did. See the Beatles, Rage Against the Machine, Daft Punk. These are all examples. And then Metallica are just really steadfast on being catchy. And so, but most of those bands that end up in a classic catalog, that's why they get there. So now we're going to look at talents outside of that. Outside of just the catalog. So we know with the catalog, people are going to say the Smiths are good because of the catalog. But is their brand good? I'm going to say yes. This is for people. There's 3 big buckets of people who might also have their opinion split. It's people who just care about shredding guitar parts and shredding bass lines and super iconic things that make you want to do that art form or learn that skill as a musician. And the Smiths have that in spades, right? People hear the guitar tones and go, oh my God, that's incredible. I want to learn. That inspires you to play guitar. The bass lines, if you hear that's barbarism begins at home. Insane. The funkiest, coolest bass. Unruly boy, how they never know. And a smack on the head is what you get for asking. A smack on the head is what you get for not asking. So for bass, guitar, singing, this inspires people to want to pick up an instrument, and that's what you need to get a green here. They get 1,000% get a green here. The brand of the Smiths, they could be mistaken by Taylor Swift and Kim Kardashian at like Walmart. Could be like, oh, I like this t-shirt brand, the Smith. They're like cool. That's a cool t-shirt. That could happen. Maybe it's a yellow-green, right? Maybe it's not as strong as the Misfits or Metallica's merch game or Kiss, but it's still, they're pretty good. Pretty good. I have a freaking Smiths t-shirt. Songwriting, incredible. So yeah, green, green, green. All 3 of these people are going to agree. Sometimes you get bands like Polyphia, where they're incredible here, but they have red and red here. They suck at these things. So people who just care about t-shirts and just care about songwriting are going to say Polyphia suck, but the guy who just cares about musicianship is going to say they're great. But then some people might say, I like the Polyphia aesthetic, even though it's completely bland and boring. And then they might also disagree. So that's where you get a controversial kind of decision on what are people going to say. So because that's what we're figuring out is, are they slop? What are you going to think? What are other people going to think? And so, but with the Smiths, this seems like everyone's probably going to say they're great. But here's when we get to controversies. When we come back here is we know where to put individual songs based off of their energy or intensity level, right? How intense they are. And then how memorable, iconic, or catchy they are on average throughout the entire song as a whole, right? we know how to do that for individual songs, but how do we do it for an artist? And it's not really how should we do it, it's how do people actually end up doing it. People think generally, how do I remember the energy or intensity and the catchiness of that artist? And it seems to me that most people just go, the songs I remember. And the songs that they remember are the ones they like the most, because that's the reason they remember them. And so here are my 10 that I like the most. I think yours might differ a little, but it'll probably end up in the similar spot. Anyways, so I did this charming man, and on the sun and how soon is now, and then heaven knows I'm miserable now. Sweetness, sweetness, I was only joking when I said I like to. Oh, sweetness, sweetness, I was only joking when I said I like to. Now I know how Joan of Arc felt. Now I know how Joan of Arc felt. As the flame rose to a Roman nose, and her hair started to melt. Oh my god. And then barbarism begins at home. And a smack on the head is what you get for not asking. A smack on the head. Barbarism begins at home, and what difference does it make? What difference does it make? John Peel session. And then panic on the streets of London. Panic on the streets of London. Dum, dum. And the DJ, gang the DJ, hang 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 the DJ. Yeah, it's great. And then there is a light and it never goes out. There's a light and it never goes out. And call me morbid, call me fair. Half a person is incredible, and you just haven't earned it yet, baby. You just haven't earned it yet, baby. Yeah, so that puts them at a 9.6. All those songs are really catchy. I couldn't resist trying to sing them. So they're at a 9.6, which is like the top end. So they're definitely rock or pop. But then look at that energy level, and I bias towards higher energy just because that's my preference, or higher intensity. I usually like listening to higher energy music. And still, even though I'm trying to, you would expect my number to be a little bit higher, on the higher end of what everyone would say, my average is still only at 4.1. So they're firmly in this, indie pop range. You go indie, and then when you come across the slop line, you can add a word. People tend to do that, right? So they'd be like, oh, well, this energy level is either indie, jazz, blues, country, classical, whatever, right? But, for the indie level, and then pop. Because they have some songs that are here, some songs that are here, but they really stay in this range. Sometimes they get a little bit punkish on the energy, or like Barbarism Begins at Home. It's just boom, it's kind of a higher energy, funkier thing. And then, which one is that? Yeah, Big Mouth. And then Just Haven't Earned It Yet, Baby. You can start to get a little bit higher energy, kind of get into the pop rock range. But I'm because of these things, I think, because of the catalog being really good and them being talented, no matter what things you care about, and them being really catchy, and them having really good catalog, it's going to be low controversy on what people think. People are going to think they're a great pop band with a little bit of a rock thing, great kind of indie pop thing. So if you enjoyed the video, like the video, comment, subscribe, tell me what I should do in the next video. Tell me what I should do. Hey man, look at me rocking out. I'm on the radio. Hey man, look at me rocking out. I'm on the video with Danny and Lisa. They take me away from the strangest places. Sweet Danny and Lisa. If you're a Latina, hit me up. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next
Step and stop and yawn, so on, I'll be